Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia, and today it is time for Friday Reads on August 1st. How's your August going so far? Hopefully well. Hopefully nothing's gone sideways on day one. I hope it's going to be a good month for all of us in reading and in life in general. So, in the book world, the big news this week was the Booker long list was announced. I get absurdly excited about this one, even though historically I read about half of them every year, and I think that's what's going to happen this year as well. But I just love a good long list, and so I don't like the way they roll it out though. They just kind of plop it and then there it is. I like a little more one at a time reveal kind of situation, but they didn't ask me. They did not put me on the committee. Maybe next year. I think some of the surprises that I noticed were the same as other people mentioned, like no Irish authors. What's up with that, Roddy Doyle? And no African authors, which people have been pointing out for 2 or 3 years. How come this keeps happening? But one thing that I noticed that I don't think anybody mentioned, but of course I did not watch every response video that there were several books going in that were on a lot of prediction lists and that sound really excellent and that are more speculative in nature. So books like The Dream Hotel by Layla Lalami, The Book of Records by Madeline Tin, Helm by Sarah Hall, all books like that. I think there was a couple more that sounded really intriguing, but fell more into a science fiction, speculative, maybe even fantasy or magic realism kind of realm. And as far as I can tell, those books did not make it. But they're still on my list, so I will be reading them by and by. I am reading one right now that I already had. I have not read any of them going in. I had one I bought. I'll talk about it in a minute. But first, let's talk about a few other things. TV watching. Right now, we are watching Russian Doll on Netflix. I think this came to my attention through a comment by Sonya from Enthusiastic Reader. Our TV interests line up pretty nicely, and so we have given each other a few different ideas of shows, and I saw her mention that she was watching that. I think it only has 2 seasons, and I think it's not in production anymore, but we started watching it, and it took us a couple of episodes to decide that we were into it, and now we're really into it. It has Natasha Lyonne as a woman who, it's her birthday, and she is at a birthday party that her friend is giving her in this pretty fancy apartment. And it opens up where she's coming out of a bathroom and into the party, and that just keeps happening over and over because she gets a certain point through everything that's happening, and then she dies in all kinds of different ways, and then she wakes up and she's in the bathroom coming out of the bathroom again, and it happens over and over and over and over, and she can't figure out how to get out of this loop or what it means, and certain people and clues start to pop up, and it gets more and more intriguing as it goes along, and it's also very funny, super dark humor, so I kind of love that. And I thought it was very fitting because I'm getting ready to read On the Calculation of Volume about a woman that keeps waking up and living the same day over and over. So I thought, yeah, let's just kind of go with that groundhoggy theme here. It also gives me kind of this After Hours vibe, that movie. I love that movie from the 80s. And every time something reminds me of that movie, I like it. So we can just proceed right on into the reading report. And I was surprised when I looked through my journal that I actually finished quite a few books this week. It kind of snuck up on me. I thought I had a couple of books to talk about, and actually I have several. So hopefully that's not disappointing. This is when you can press the double speed button and try to get through all of my meanderings. So first of all, when last we spoke, I was reading West by Carys Davies. It is a short novel coming in at 149 pages. The other novel I read by her, Clear, was also a short novel. Both of them I would recommend if you are looking for some short novels to assemble your Shorty September reading list. This book did a really wonderful job with character development in a short novel. It was short, but it was pretty deep. It is about a man named what's his last name? Cy Bellman. He's a grieving widower who has a young daughter. The time is early 1800s. He reads a newspaper story about the discovery of dinosaur bones, and he gets the notion that there might be actual living dinosaurs roaming in the unexplored areas of the American West. He lives on a farm in Pennsylvania. He lives in this farm is an hour and a half walk from the nearest town, and he lives there with this daughter, and there's a man that comes around and helps him with some of the bigger, heavier farm work. There's a subscription library in town that his daughter Bess would so much like to join, but she doesn't have the money. So he decides to go off on this venture, and he says, well, I'll be gone for a year or two. Got to go find those dinosaurs. He asks his sister to come stay with Bess. She thinks he's nuts. Everyone thinks he's nuts. He kind of is nuts, and he goes off on this journey. And even though I had so many problems with Cy and his abandonment of his daughter, who loves her father, did not want him to leave. Davies also just, the way she creates this character, especially towards the end of his story, it's just, I can't say I sympathize with him, because I felt kind of judgmental about him, but at the same time, the way his character is created, and as you begin to see the trauma that he is harboring about the loss of his wife, and when he begins to start realizing that his quest might never come to fruition, which of course it can't, because there weren't any dinosaurs roaming around. So we have him. We have Bess back at home, a wonderful child character she's so smart and so savvy. She really needs to get into that subscription library. The only book in her house to read is a Bible. It's just not satisfying. Her one and only friend, she cuts him off because he makes fun of her father. Her aunt is stern, and she kind of has to be. She gets stuck with this job of watching the child and running this farm, and she's just she has no time or energy for anything fanciful. It's just work, work, work. But her one fancy is misunderstanding the intentions of the neighboring farmhand. And Bess does not misunderstand. And I'm not even going to get into that. And then there's a surprise, wonderful character that develops in the middle of the story. And it is a young Indigenous man who is hired as a guide for Cy. And he goes by the name of Old Woman from a Distance. And he's a teenage boy who knows a lot and says very little. There's a big language barrier. His interior life, his thoughts versus what Cy thinks is going on. Wonderful, sometimes funny, often heartrending. He becomes more and more important in the story. A lot of people had a problem with the ending of Clear, the way all of a sudden it wrapped up in the end. And I think this might be a trait of Davies' writing, because there's an ending to this book that you will either love or you will not accept it. I'm just going to lay that down lightly and say that, but I really enjoyed this book. I also went ahead and read the first of the 2 plays chosen for this month. I say chosen like it wasn't me that chose them, in the Endless Drama play project that is running in, I have a Discord for that. And the first play was Art by Yasmina Reza. It's translated from French by Christopher Hampton, and it is just the first play of 4 in this book. So it's very short, coming in under 70 pages in my edition. And Art was the play that I actually saw years ago, and I remembered that it was funny. I remembered that it was sort of a tableau about 3 men, and it begins with a discussion of a painting. And I am really glad that I picked something with some comic relief. I read a couple of books that were of a lighter nature in this past week, and that it helped my spirits, because I had read some dark. If you've been around the past few weeks, there was a parade of darkness, except for Emma. So art is funny, but it's funny in a scathing way. And I'm not going to say too much about it because it's an August selection and it's only August 1st. But I'll tell you what it's about. There are three men that are friends. It's French. One of the men buys a painting. It is a painting by a significant artist. It's not somebody real. It's an expensive painting, and it's a white painting with some white lines on it. Just a very minimalist painting. And at the beginning of the play, this man, Serge, is showing the painting to his friend Mark, and he does not get the reaction that he's expecting. So, and then there's a third friend named Yvonne. So it is conversations, sometimes all three, sometimes two of the three, and it is sparked and begins with the painting, but then it branches out into a lot of other avenues about their relationships, their friendships, their views on a wide array of contemporary things. Contemporary as in 1998, but it doesn't have a dated feel to it, and it's very funny, and I'm so glad to say this. So I'm not going to say anything else about it because the conversation has merely just begun about art by Yasmina Reza. I also finished a buddy read that we're not finished talking about, which is The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane by Kate DiCamillo. My friend Michael and I are reading all the works in publication order of Kate DiCamillo, the children's author, because we are both former children's librarians and this is one of our favorite authors. So I first read this book back when it was a new release, and I probably was in the process of acquiring it from my school library. And at that time, I decided not to read it to Emma, who was about 5 or 6 at that time, because she was really sensitive then to two things that were too scary and things that were too sad, emotional, just kind of wrenching things. And she eventually kind of moved out of that sensitivity phase. That didn't sound nice. Now she's an old, tough old hide. No, she isn't. But she became less sensitive to that kind of material in a book or a show. And so at that time, we did have it in the library, and it was popular. She's a very popular author, and some teachers did get it and read to their class. I think it's a book, if you have a young child, you would want to read it with them, and so you could talk about some of these emotionally heavy things that happen in this book. But something that I really appreciate about Kate DiCamillo is she does not pull any punches in her writing. And I love this about a number of my favorite authors, is they don't, for children, they don't shy away from the intensity of human experience and human emotion. That doesn't mean that they put in a bunch of age inappropriate content, because they don't, but the power is there. And if you are an adult reader, sometimes it's even more powerful because you are all those people you used to be, the 10-year-old reading that book for the first time, and then you're yourself now and everything that's accumulated since. So I've said it before and I've said it again, is that children's books approach with caution because they are the most emotionally intense books. So this is about a toy rabbit named Edward, a beautiful Victorian era toy rabbit with a china head, lovely sets of clothes, and he is beloved by a little girl, but he doesn't really have any emotion in return. He doesn't talk. Well, he talks in his head, but he doesn't talk. She loves him dearly. There's an old grandmother in the family, and she can see right into Edward's soul, and she can see that he is self-centered and doesn't really care about the people around him. And she clocks him on this, and it's kind of creepy. And then Edward, there's a mishap during a sea voyage, and Edward starts going on an adventure through many sets of people. And as he goes along, he is rediscovered, rescued, given different names, and through all of these encounters, he develops the capacity to love. And he also develops the capacity to grieve and feel lost, because there's that dichotomy. You don't get one without the other if you're going to experience the range of emotions. The miraculous journey that Edward makes is not just the physical journey. It's also about the miraculous journey in his heart. That is the miraculous journey of Edward Tulane. And it also has absolutely beautiful illustrations by, I forget who, because I read the book on my iPad, but I will put it up on the screen. But wait, there's more. I finished another book. I read another one of my August books. I read one of the books for the science fiction double feature project, and it is Titanium Noir by Nick Harkaway. And again, I'm only going to say a little bit about it because we haven't even had a chance to talk about it yet. I don't want to spill out all of my response beans right here. This is it's a mashup of genres between detective noir and science fiction. It's about a detective named Cal Sounder who kind of works with the police department, but he's not a police officer. And his specialty is cases involving Titans. We assume that this is the near future because the world seems pretty close to how it is now. But there's this medical technology that is kind of gate-kept by the family that kind of owns all this particular technology. And it can enhance a human being who is maybe has a life-threatening illness or injury and rescues them, enhances them. It kind of sets their body clock back to a younger point, but in the process, it makes the person experience an immediate rapid growth. And so these people are abnormally big and tall and kind of not exactly immortal, but they could live for many, many years. So somebody might be 90, but they look like they're 30. And you can go through multiple rounds of this and keep getting bigger and more powerful. So when there's a crime that involves these particular small set of people, Cal comes in to see what's going on and try to do damage control. He has a certain association with the family that developed this technique, and it's kind of an insular community. So a murder happens at the very beginning. It appears that the man who has died is a Titan, but he's one that nobody really knows anything about because most of them live in a very wealthy, exclusive lifestyle and all have some sort of relation to this one powerful, super wealthy family. And he seems to be an outlier. So Cal's intrigued. He starts to research this person and stuff happens. So that's all I'm going to say right now, but it's action-packed. There are some crazy, bizarre fight scenes in this book. It's really fun, but there are also some timely and thought-provoking themes also embedded in this novel. So I enjoyed it very much. I read it fast. It was a good time, but then there's also some things to think about. I will be talking about them in the Discord. So now we finally get to the currently reading and the upcoming reading. And I am currently reading 2 books, but about to start a third because it's August 1st and it's time to read The Love Story of J. Alfred Prufrock for the T.S. Eliot event that is beginning today. The Flo Smoot edition with her note about the sensuous yellow fog. So I am going to be reading and rereading this throughout the next few days and thinking and talking about it with the group. I am also reading one of the Booker titles, and it's Endling by Reva. I had bought this a few weeks ago at Book People in Austin. It is a signed edition, and now I'm so excited that it is on the Booker list. I know it came up in a lot of prediction videos, and then it was on display at the bookstore. I think she had done an event there. And she is a Canadian-Ukrainian author. She previously had a short story collection, and it says she also works as an opera librettist, which is really interesting. Nothing about opera has come up in the story yet, but this is the one about snails, and there is a young woman named Reva. She lives in kind of a tricked-out trailer that she has modified to be a science lab on wheels, and she goes around and she tries to collect and rescue endangered snails. To support her living, she works as a potential bride for the marriage tourist industry. Now, this is a really odd thing, and I got to a certain point reading, and I just had to stop and look this up and find out how much of a thing is this. So apparently there are men that come to Ukraine on these marriage tours. They go to these parties. It's kind of like a big mixer, and they meet women that they potentially want to go on dates with. Maybe they come for 10 days or 2 weeks, and they try to meet a bunch of women, go on dates, and see if they can find somebody that they would like to marry. And they're expecting to find women of a more traditional nature than I guess that they can find in the U.S. And so there's money to be made in being one of these potential brides. You aren't obligated to actually marry anybody. You can kind of stay in the mix as long as you want. And so she's doing this for money. Then we also have a pair of younger sisters who are also working in this industry as a kind of a duo. One is the potential bride and one is the interpreter. They're hoping to find their mother, who is a political activist against the marriage industry, and she has disappeared. So we have this trio of women. This is how far I've gotten. There's this trio of women. There's the snail research and a number of things that have gone wrong. Yeva is in a bad place mentally, emotionally at this point in the story. So I'm really enjoying it so far, but I just started last night and I'm not that far in. I'll let you know what happens. And then I have 2 buddy reads that are about to start. Pale Shadows by Dominique Fortier and translated from French by Rhonda Mullins, a French-Canadian author. This is the book about the 3 women who put together Emily Dickinson's poetry after her death to assemble a collection for publication. And then The Wall by Marlen Haushofer? Good grief. Translated from German by Shaun Whiteside, a dystopian feminist classic from an Austrian author, first published in 1968. About the woman who wakes up and she's at a vacation lodge and all of a sudden she's walled off by an invisible wall from the whole rest of the world and just herself and a few animals. And so I forgot to say I'll be reading this with my friend Michael, and I'm going to read this with my friend Louise. And so that is what is coming up. I think I forgot to mention the other book I'm currently reading, though. We got to go backwards here. I'm also reading Paperbacks from Hell by Grady Hendrix. This is my Garbaga selection. Here's the page that I'm on. This is a hoot. This book is so funny. He traces the history of trashy horror books. Some of them not trashy, but a lot of them just absolute garbage. And talking about how the history of those books fit into social history, actual events, and also how one particular book that is successful will spawn a whole side industry of books of a related nature. So you have something like Jaws, and then a big run of crazed animals that want to eat people. You have something like Rosemary's Baby, which is actually a good book, but then you have a gazillion books about satanic pregnancies and evil babies and so on and so forth. So his descriptions of the plots of these books is it is so funny. His narrative style is so entertaining, and then we get the cover art of these books as well. And so he just covers it all: the good, the bad, the absurd, the disgusting, and it's very entertaining. I recommend this book. Is Squelch still in print? So that's it. That's all. That's what's going on. Tell me about yourself. What are you doing? What are you reading? What's going on this weekend? And I will be back. I got a lot of things in the hopper. A book haul, a look ahead at the next set of books for the science fiction double feature project. I am putting the last teeny tiny touches on the 30 books in 30 days September short fiction list. So much going on. So I will see you soon. Bye-bye.